bring college players. They're that. I think they're that like advanced. As you can see, how many players in the first or second year are on this squad. So yeah, this is the team. There's 5 players back from the Olympics team. Griner's in there, who I think there's a 0% chance Griner makes the next Olympics team. I think there's probably a 0% chance that Griner makes the World Cup team. I think the guarantee, like this could be their World Cup team. This very well could be their World Cup team. There's a possibility that
the recent Team USA women's basketball camp roster has generated significant discussion among fans and analysts. Given that several veteran stars won't be participating in this particular gathering, the selected group appears quite solid and shows promising strategic thinking about the program's future direction. A notable aspect of this roster selection is the inclusion of emerging young talent. The decision to bring in rising stars like Juju Watkins represents smart long-term planning for the program. This approach seems designed to avoid past mistakes, particularly the situation involving Caitlin Clark's initial exclusion from Olympic consideration. The Basketball Federation appears to have learned valuable lessons about integrating talented newcomers earlier in the process rather than waiting until the last moment.
Possibility that agents, Stewie and Fee just say, fuck it, we don't care about the World Cup. If I'm not, I think they all went to the World Cup last time, but like they brought Shakira Austin to the last World Cup, which is kind of mad looking back on it. Players that I'm surprised to not see here. I'm surprised to not see Ariel Atkins. I'm surprised to see Veronica Burton. As good as she was, I'm surprised to see her. I'm really surprised to see Lauren Betts. I don't get the hype. I don't get the hype. It's like drafting Zach Edey in 2024.
One glaring omission from this camp is Sarah Strong, considering that Juju Watkins received an invitation despite the camp being only 2 days long. There's no logical explanation for Strong's absence. The distance between North Carolina and Connecticut shouldn't be a prohibitive factor. Strong possesses the skill level that warrants her presence at such developmental camps. The decision makers should seriously consider bringing more collegiate athletes into these programs, as several young players have demonstrated they're advanced enough to compete at this level. Evidence of this philosophy is visible in the number of first and second year professionals included in the current squad.
In 2024 in the top 10, I don't get the hype. It's like, do you move forward with the game of basketball or do you go back to 1990? And that's the way I feel like with Lauren Betts. And I think maybe she's just out of matchup with Griner. But Hamby, she was there at the 3-on-3. I'm shocked there's no Ryan Howard. Unless she backed out, or Alicia Gray. Because I think Alicia Gray, if I'm not mistaken, she's with the 3-on-3 team, isn't she? Is she with the 3x3 team? Did I read that somewhere?
Looking at returning Olympians, 5 players from the previous games are present at this camp. However, Brittany Griner's inclusion raises questions about future roster decisions. The likelihood of Griner securing a spot on the next Olympic squad appears minimal, and even her chances for the upcoming World Cup team seem questionable. The guaranteed veterans returning will likely form the core of the World Cup roster, though there's speculation that players like Aja Wilson, Brianna Stewart, and Diana Taurasi might opt out of World Cup participation, choosing instead to rest and focus on Olympic preparation. Historical context provides some perspective here. The previous World Cup saw Shakira Austin on the roster, which in retrospect seems like an unusual selection.
Read that somewhere? But like Alicia Gray coming off an all-W first team spot should be here unless she declined. Ryan Howard should be here, especially over like a Rikia, who her and Ryan are the same age. Coppers earned her spot. Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum absolutely earned their spots. Caitlin Clark being there, well, duh. Chelsea Gray is a vet. I don't really mind it when you're losing Stewie, when you're losing age.
This tournament could very well feature many of the same faces currently at camp, especially if the biggest stars decide to skip it. Several surprising absences stand out. Ariel Atkins not receiving an invitation is unexpected. While Veronica Burton performed well recently, her inclusion is somewhat surprising given other available options. Lauren Betts represents perhaps the most puzzling selection. The enthusiasm surrounding Betts doesn't align with the modern trajectory of basketball.
Losing Stewie, when you're losing age, when you're losing Fee. Taurasi obviously was on the last Olympic team. Who's not here? Sabrina. I think Sabrina just declined. Like, I mean this when I say this. Like, I don't think Sabrina Ionescu makes this team if they weren't sponsored by Nike. I mean that. Like, what we saw at the last Olympics, what we've seen, I don't think she's done enough. She does enough to to guarantee her a spot on this team. And to miss a camp, you never know. If she's there in March, she's there in March. But like, she's not so.
Selecting her feels similar to drafting Zach Edey in the top 10 of the 2024 draft. It suggests a move backward toward 1992nd style basketball rather than embracing contemporary play.
In March. But like, she's not somebody that has really prioritized any off-season basketball. She's not someone who has prioritized any off-season basketball. And yeah, it's one of those things where she's obviously thinking she's a guarantee. So I'm just trying to think, who started? Did Jackie Young start in the end? Chelsea Gray started. Obviously, look, Chelsea Gray probably will make the World Cup team as a vet. Don't think she should be playing that much because, again, she's not a point guard, and especially at the
Howard deserves consideration as well, particularly when comparing her credentials to some included players. Several roster spots seem well earned. Kalia Copper has proven herself worthy of selection. Jackie Young and Kelsey Plum have absolutely earned their positions through consistent excellence. Caitlin Clark's presence is obvious and necessary. Her inclusion shouldn't surprise anyone. Chelsea Gray brings valuable veteran experience, which becomes crucial when considering the absence of Stewart, Wilson, and Torresy.
Guard, and especially at the international play, like everyone talks about how much more physical it is. Bullshit. France want to run. They want to run. Like you don't play Chelsea Gray against good teams. You can play her against the shit teams. You don't play her against good teams. So my expectation is that Aja comes back in. I don't know. I think Alyssa Thomas is probably one and done with the Olympics. She'll be 37 at the next Olympics. I don't see her playing it. I don't see her playing the next Olympics, honestly. So she's probably going to be gone.
Diana Taurasi appeared on the previous Olympic roster, but her future participation remains uncertain given her age and career stage. Sabrina Ionescu's absence merits discussion. She likely declined the invitation, but there are legitimate questions about whether her performance justifies automatic roster spots. The last Olympics revealed some limitations, and her body of work since then hasn't necessarily guaranteed her position. Sponsorship considerations may play a role in her continued prominence within the program. She hasn't prioritized off-season basketball commitments consistently.
So she's probably going to be gone. Fee's going to be there, and I need to check who else was on that. Jewel Lloyd, done. 2024 Olympics women's basketball. I just need to see who's on that team that's not on this, because I think there's 7 that aren't there. I'm surprised again if Skylar Diggins wanted to be there. She's not there. Jewel Lloyd, Taurasi. So who's not there? Jewel, Taurasi, Aja, Sabrina, Fee.
If she appears at the March camp, that's when her status will become clearer, but she shouldn't be considered an automatic lock for major tournaments. Analyzing the starting lineup from the previous Olympics provides insight into current selections. Jackie Young eventually worked into the starting unit, while Chelsea Gray started from the beginning. Gray will likely make the World Cup roster as a veteran presence, though her playing time should be limited. She's no longer effective as a primary point guard, and international basketball's physical style doesn't suit her current abilities. Teams like France prefer to push tempo and run, which exposes Gray's declining speed. She remains valuable against weaker competition but becomes a liability against top-tier opponents. Projecting forward, Aja Wilson will certainly return for major competitions. Alyssa Thomas might be a one-and-done Olympic participant, as she'll be approximately 37 years old by the next Games, making her continued participation unlikely. Taurasi's involvement remains guaranteed for any tournament she chooses to enter. Jewel Lloyd's Olympic experience is probably complete, given her age and the emergence of younger talent. Reviewing the 2024 Olympic roster reveals 7 players not present at the current camp. Skylar Diggins-Smith represents another surprising absence if she wanted to participate. The missing Olympians include Lloyd, Taurasi, Sabrina Ionescu, Wilson, Taurasi, who was listed twice in records, and Stewart. Despite these absences, the current group maintains strong quality. The World Cup roster will likely draw from this current camp pool plus the big 3 stars. Angel Reese seems destined for World Cup inclusion. Juju Watkins, even if healthy by then, probably won't make the final cut due to her youth and the depth of available talent. The program's decision to include collegiate players now reflects their desire to avoid repeating the Clark situation, where the marketing conversation and media attention focused entirely on who was excluded rather than who made the team. That controversy reached such intensity that some Americans actually rooted against their own country during Olympic competition. International basketball dynamics add interesting layers to fan perspectives. Fans from other nations naturally cheer against American dominance because any USA loss represents a David versus Goliath upset. This sentiment differs entirely from actually wanting America to fail. It's simply the natural response when one nation dominates a sport so thoroughly. The same principle applies across different sports depending on which countries dominate them. The guaranteed roster spots for future major competitions should include Caitlin Clark, Paige Buchers, and Angel Reese. The program will probably bring back the 5 Olympic returners from this camp, though Brittany Griner's inclusion remains questionable. Chelsea Gray, despite her limitations as a primary ball handler, excels as a utility player who brings exceptional basketball IQ. Her playoff performances demonstrated she can still contribute significantly when not asked to be the main point guard. Gray can slide between positions, playing anywhere from the 2 through the 4 when matchups demand it. Her offensive intelligence makes her one of the best do-everything glue players in the league, even if her speed has diminished. Constructing a realistic roster projection, assuming Sabrina plays along with the big 3, that accounts for 4 spots. Chelsea Gray and Jackie Young likely claim 2 more positions. Kelsey Plum seems certain for another spot, and Alicia Clark deserves inclusion as well. That leaves 4 remaining positions. Clark, Buchers, and Reese would logically fill 3 of those spots, leaving one final selection among Copper, Azura Stevens, Brianna Jones, and Rakia Jackson. With the roster notably lacking traditional size, Brianna Jones deserves strong consideration over Griner. Jones has dominated in overseas competition and brings legitimate size at the forward center positions. Stevens also offers valuable size options. The front court rotation could feature Jones, Clark, and Reese as primary options at the 4 and 5 spots, with Wilson able to play either forward position. Stewart can shift between the 3 and 4, as can Taurasi, providing tremendous lineup flexibility. The backcourt rotation becomes clearer with Clark and Buchers both earning starting positions. Clark should run the point with Buchers at shooting guard, maximizing both players' strengths rather than forcing them into uncomfortable roles. Playing Buchers at point and Clark at the 2 would be counterproductive, forcing both to operate in their weaker areas instead of leveraging their primary skills. That alignment would be basketball malpractice. Azura Stevens deserves serious consideration and would be a valuable addition, though the selection committee may overlook her. Rakia Jackson won't make the final roster. Lauren Betts lacks the experience and impact for international competition at this stage. Juju Watkins, dealing with injury, obviously won't be available for immediate selection.